Hello everyone, happy Monday, welcome back, thank you so much for joining me. Sorry all my candles have gone out, I need some new ones. Yeah, so I'm cheating a bit today. I've done my face already a little bit, I'm going to add some other little bits, but happy Monday, happy November. Halloween went so quick, the whole of October went so quick, this year's gone quick. Anyway, if this is your first time here, Mondays are where I tell my subscribers ghost stories that they're sending to me right here. It doesn't always have to be ghosts, it can be people. People are weird, people are scary. Why not tell me about the people you've met? The weird and scary ones. So today's theme of death is something everyone can relate to, and that is peaches, eating too many peaches. I've got so bad at thinking of ways to die that I look at a colour, I'm like, yeah, peach. Anyway, I wanted an excuse to use this palette from Praise Beauty. I've used their formula before and it's absolutely stunning. It says proudly indigenous, unapologetically beautiful, and these colours are some nice kind of like almost muted shades, but I was looking at these more peachy tones and I was like, I haven't done peach in a really long time or ever, and if I did it probably came out purple. So sorry, excuse my contour by the way, I was filming a video before where I was purposely not blending in and showing what it looked like with like filters, but getting to that another time. So that's just how it is. And I love the way they've kind of structured this palette. So instead of like shade names, I could be like, oh yeah, it's 1P or P1. I think that's really cute. Anyway, so I have this. I have some of I had their blush palette and I really liked it. And now I can't find it. It is somewhere in here, but I have a highlighter palette too. And their contour palette. And I did have some lip shades and now I don't know where. I've basically put everything in a pile and I don't know where that pile is. Okay. Let's get into it. Hi Robert, I would like to start by saying that I am a new fan and I recently just started watching your videos. I love it, so I decided to send you one of my stories. I grew up in the Philippines and I went to a Catholic school. My school was located in the basement of a church and there was a cemetery for priests and nuns right beside my classroom. One day, my friends and I decided to play Spirit off the Coin. It's a makeshift Ouija board where you use a coin as the cruiser instead of a typical triangle wood thing. Anyways, the entire time I was laughing because the coin started to move. And I thought it was one of my friends that did it. And apparently, they're laughing because they thought I was the one moving it, but it wasn't. We asked for a name and it spelled Zenaida. We were going to ask more questions, but my teacher caught us and made us stop. We weren't able to say goodbye or end the game properly. We went and played a tag afterwards, and then we noticed that the gate to the cemetery was open. My friends were scared, so I went by myself, and the first headstone I saw was named Zenaida. We were so scared. Fast forward 10 years, I've had many ghost encounters, but it didn't seem to bother me as much anymore. I moved to Canada, and life is good. So I went to a psychic one day to have a guardian angel reading. It's apparently supposed to help guide my life by talking to my guardian angel. I was a skeptic at first, but she told me something that changed everything. She told me to promise that I will never ever touch a Ouija board ever again. She asked me if I remembered the last time I played. I said yes, and she said that a spirit had attached itself to me the day I played the Ouija board. She said that my guardian angel has fought very hard to fight the spirit away, and the spirit has been following me for all these years. She said that part of the reason I don't feel that spirit as much is also because I have outgrown it. I believe it because there is no way that this psychic would have known these details about me. I also believed that it's Zenaida that she was referring to. All these years I knew I was haunted. I still feel that spirit sometimes, but it doesn't bother me anymore. I know I have my angel. See, Ouija boards, even makeshift Ouija boards, scary, creepy, dangerous. It should be like an 18 and over situation. Actually, no, 18s are still fucking idiots sometimes, aren't they? It should be like a 21. and over situation. Although, let's be real, there's people of all ages who are so dumb. Thank you so much for your story. I'm glad you have someone looking out for you. Okay, next up we have an audio story. So if you want to send me your stories in a form of audio, then you absolutely can. And this is just called My Ghost Story. So that's good.
Hi Robert, I love your channel. Thank you so much for picking my story. So, back in 2018, my aunt passed away from lung cancer. My family and I were all at the funeral home, and maybe about 40 minutes before her funeral service was going to start, my grandma got a phone call from her sister saying that her brother, who had been in the hospital for a few days, had passed away. So it was a very dramatic day, to say the least. Maybe like 20 minutes later, my grandma, a family friend, we'll call her Jane, Jane's daughter, and I all went to the restroom. There were only 2 stalls, so my grandma and Jane's daughter went into the stalls while Jane and I waited in the restroom. Out of nowhere, I saw a forehead with short black hair pop up from the top of the stall and then go back down immediately. It was like as if someone had jumped and their forehead just peeked over the top of the stall. But there was no sound of feet hitting the ground. The restroom was completely silent. About a minute after that, my grandma came out of her stall and Jane asked, "Did you just jump?" Now, mind you, my grandma is about 4'10", she's in her late 80s, has 2 fake knees and a fake hip, so she didn't jump. Plus, she also said she didn't jump. And after Jane asked her question, I looked at her and I said, "What did you see?" I purposefully didn't tell her what I saw first because I wanted to hear her completely raw, uninfluenced version of what she saw. And she said, oh my god, I'm getting chills. She said, it looked like someone with short black hair was jumping from inside the stall. And that freaked me out because if it was something that only I had seen, I would have just brushed it off and come up with some alternative explanation of what had happened. But given the facts that she saw the exact same thing that I saw, we were in a funeral home, and my grandma's brother, someone who once had short black hair, had just died, baby, it was a ghost. Also, after that, I really had to pee, so I went into the stall that my grandma had used, and I was so scared, but fortunately, I didn't have any visitors while I was on the toilet. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's really, really creepy. What is it about hair that makes it scary? I don't know what it is, but when someone's like, and then I saw hair, it really creeps me out. I don't know why. How confused would you be if someone was just like, did you jump? I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean, did I jump? Yeah, ever? Yes. So his peach is going a little bit red now. Peaches and raspberries, let's say. Thank you so much for your story. That is creepy. And you know what? If I saw anything okay, I moved my doorbell in here so I could hear it. I regret it so much. If I saw anything like that in a funeral home, I would just assume it was a ghost, you know? Okay, so next up we have another story. It's called Sweet Ghost Story. That's good. If I cry, shame on you. Hi. For a little backstory, my mum passed away when I was 12. I was about 19 when this story took place. I'm 24 now. I was living in an apartment with my dad and boyfriend. Dad had gone away for work, and my boyfriend and I were just laying in bed, playing on our phones with my cat, Lucky. Oh, please don't say the cat died. I noticed Lucky was looking around the room, high up, moving his head back and forth slowly. So I told my boyfriend, okay, don't think I'm crazy, but let me just do something. I'm going to speak out loud. He said, okay. So out loud I said, hi mum, if that's you, stop. Can you go to the left corner of the room? I watched Lucky slowly turn to the left, then said, all right mum, go to the right side of the room. Lucky slowly turned his head to the right. My boyfriend was getting freaked out, so I stopped, and we just continued playing on our phones. A couple of days later, I was cleaning my room. Dad and my boyfriend were both at work. I had my closet doors open, with some extra pillows at the top shelf, and I was cleaning at the other end of her room. A pillow fell. I didn't think anything of it and just put it back up. Well, a few weeks later, I went to a medium with my aunt and my cousins. The medium said Did anything fall off your shelf recently? It wasn't hard and it didn't break. It was a pillow, I think. At first, I didn't even think of it because it's such a small event, but then I remembered and I said yes. The medium said that was your mum saying hello. And yes, that was her in your room before. She didn't like that you were telling her where to go. We laughed about this together. Oh, it's so cute. That's such a nice story. It's always nice to like imagine that somebody is still with you, you know. I wish we could see what cats and dogs could see, you know. Okay. Now, as is custom, we have Marcus reading us a story. 2 stories, actually. Okay, take it away.
Hi, Rubbers Welsh. Here are today's ghost stories, starring many different ghosts. Story 1, The Ghost in the Closet. So here's where my story starts. In 2015, my husband and I bought our first house after he got out of the military. At that time, our son was 3 years old, and I was 7 months pregnant with my daughter. It was a 4-bedroom house. My son was sleeping in his own room by the time we moved in, so my room door was always open. That way I could hear him if he needed me during the night. One night, my husband and I were awakened at 3:40 a.m. to the sound of my son's laughter. He was laughing so much as if someone was tickling him, so we went straight to his room to go and see. We usually always leave his door open. That way in the middle of the night we wouldn't wake him if he went to go check on him. But that night his room door was closed slightly, cracked open, just so you could barely see his bed. We looked through the crack, only to notice he was jumping on the bed, playing with a huge beach ball that he was throwing into his closet, saying things like, "Are you ready? And you better catch it," as if someone was in there playing with him. As soon as we opened the door, he sat down and stopped laughing. We asked him who he was talking to, and he said he was just playing, but his closet door was wide open. We told him to go to sleep, turned off the lights and went back to our room. We didn't question him much about it. We just thought maybe he was playing. Maybe 2-3 weeks later, while my husband was at work, my son was in the dining room drawing. If you're sitting at the dining room table, you can see into my room. So while he's drawing, I'm washing the dishes, and I can see him perfectly. I noticed he stopped drawing and was in a frozen state, just looking into my room. When I walked towards him, I looked into my room to see if I could see anything that would catch his eye. I didn't notice anything, so I asked him what was wrong. He told me that a very tall man, all in black with very long legs and a hat, had just walked from behind my bedroom door into my closet. Me being scared, I took him to his room and turned on the TV. I walked into the kitchen to find the biggest knife I had. I went to my room and straight into the closet. There wasn't anyone, just our clothes and our shoes. I checked the restroom behind my door and looked everywhere. Nothing. I asked my son what the man looked like. He told me he drew a picture of what he saw, and remember, he was 3 at this time. I was in total shock. I didn't know what to say. I showed the picture to my husband once he got home, and told him everything that happened. We ended up contacting my husband's cousin, who cleans houses, and he did his thing. I hope you enjoyed listening to our story. We have not enjoyed living it. Laugh out loud. Take care. Story 2, Haunted House Viewing. Hi Robert, I love your channel, and when you asked if we would tell a house buyer of a resident ghost or death, it made me want to share a very strange and true story that happened to me when I was viewing a bungalow to purchase with my husband back in 1993. Warning, the ending is a bit gruesome. We had been searching for a new home to buy for months and had viewed loads of properties, none of which seemed quite right. One day we went with an estate agent to view an empty property, a 1950s bungalow, a doer-upper. It was a lovely sunny day, but the bungalow seemed very cold inside. As you walked into the hall, you could see straight into the kitchen, which was filled with sunlight. You would think that this would make it feel warm and welcoming, but it didn't. I did go into the kitchen, but could not bring myself to go into the other rooms. My husband was walking about saying how great it was and what good potential it had. I just stood by the front door with the young estate agent, who was nervously smoking a cigarette. It was allowed back then. Then I glanced to my right, into one of the bedrooms. By now I was starting to feel very nervous and uncomfortable. As I looked into the empty room, I noticed the carpet had been removed, and on the wall where you would place the bed were circular scrubbing marks on the wall and floor. I turned to the estate agent and asked him if someone had died there. He got really panicky and said, "What? Why are you saying that?" I don't know," and quickly went and stood out in the front garden. I demanded to leave, and my husband reluctantly came outside and we drove home, me in tears. My husband was quite annoyed that I hadn't even looked around the property, but I told him I was overcome with fear and sadness standing in that house, and there was no way I could ever live there. Fast forward to 1998, 5 years later. By now, having purchased a gorgeous new home and had my baby boy, I started a new part-time job and was chatting and getting to know my new work colleague. I asked her where she lived, and she actually lived straight across the road to that bungalow. Well, I couldn't resist. I asked if anyone had died there, and was shocked but not surprised when she said yes. Apparently an old couple had lived there, and the old man had committed suicide by hanging himself from the attic rafters. A few months later, his widow died in her bed and was not discovered for a month. I couldn't wait to get home and tell my husband, who just rolled his eyes, and was so pleased that we did not buy that place. I'm not allowed to talk about anything anymore. At the end here, Robert is actually, he's gone to Mum, and Mum has, by edict of Mum, I am not allowed to say anything other than the following statement. Have a lovely 2 weeks, everybody. See you next time here on Ghost Stories and Robert on Doing Makeup on Monday. Make sure you all fight against this.
I clearly did not write that statement. I think I would be better at writing a statement than that. Thank you, Marcus. This is stupid. Children, houses, animals. Everything in life is scary. Everything in life is absolutely terrifying. Even the things that are meant to make us feel comfortable. And that's a life lesson. Okay, let's see what we got. I always get nervous when it comes to this bit because of the ones we've had before that have just been generally terrifying. Okay, let's have a look at our first one. Oh, do I put on mascara while this happens? Let me put on mascara first. Okay, let's do it. Let's watch the first one.
My dog kept acting strange around my wardrobe in my new house, so I decided to set up my phone recording. I'm scared to sleep now.
See, I don't know about other people's dogs, but if I was to stand in that wardrobe, my dogs would be like really curious and try and get in there. So I'm wondering if there was someone, in my mind, I was like, oh, maybe there's someone behind there, but it just looked a bit scary. I hope that dog's okay. It always worries me because like ghost situation and pet situation. I hope the animal's fine.
Chloe, you're gonna have to go and have a look. Honestly, please.
Don't fucking film me.
I am.
I'm here.
No, we're the only ones here.
Hello? Hello?
Oh! No! Oh my, Chloe, go in, Chloe, go in.
There's actually no one in here.
No, wait. I'll have a look at the bar now. What the hell?
There's something about accents in the UK where you can kind of tell being from the UK when they're kind of like acting. And that just seemed a little bit Yeah, especially I feel like if somebody throws a floor sign or something throws a floor sign, no matter how used to it you are, you wouldn't be like, go and have a look. Like, you wouldn't send your friend in to go and have a look at it, would you? As much as as much as I like to give everything the benefit of a doubt, not so much that one. I let my lash glue get a little bit too tacky, and now I can't slide this lash down, so I'm sorry for a little disconnect there. Well, that was this week's Ghost Stories video. If you have any stories yourself, go ahead and send them right here to this email address: ghosts, aliens, Christmas ghosts, seasonal ghosts, then go ahead and send them there. Thank you so much. I appreciate all your stories. I've had a few people ask if they should resend their stories. Please don't. Just be patient. We're very, very behind, almost like a year. If you send in a video story or an audio story or a story that's accompanied by a video or audio or a picture, that kind of skips ahead a little bit because it breaks down all the reading, all the emails, if that makes sense. Anyway, yes, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you very, very soon. Have an amazing week ahead. Yeah, bye.